Welcome, Walnut. I'm Lara, but you can call me Lazz, your host for Walnut Wednesday. This is your reminder to be brave, be yourself, and know that you can make the world a better place just by what you decide today. Here, I'm going to share my weekly walnuttings with you on a Wednesday. Hello, Walnut. It is me, Lazz, here for another episode of Walnut Wednesday. I hope you're having a wonderful week. And if your week is not wonderful, I hope you're surviving and making it through and doing what little walnutting you can to try and make it a learning opportunity for the better. This week, I have a walnutting that I'm not entirely prepared as to how I'm going to share it, but it's coming out. So this is a workplace related walnutting, where in my role walnut, and I know that there are a lot of us in the walnut tree who are quite similar with how we work, but I am in a role that is of service. I'm a coordinator. So, and an assistant. I'm in service in almost all of my hats, actually, that I wear. But nonetheless, my role kind of falls under the umbrella of the doer. I'm the person that, will get stuff done. So if you need something from me, and especially at the moment, I've had to say, you just need to boss me around and don't feel bad about it. Just tell me what to do and I will get it done. And I have my processes and I'm navigating how this works through my condition and all the things. But as of late, Walnut, I'm quite overwhelmed with workload things. As well as in my condition in not the final phase, in the third phase of my condition. So as you know, I'm slowing down, things are getting harder, to-do lists and things that I need to do just like fall out of my butt from they don't return back to my brain. I have to be a little bit more conscious about my calendar and my time and how I manage and prioritize things, especially at work. But I have a lot going on, and for the month, I also have anticipated, just because of the workload, more of this coming up. So I'm pre-preparing for that. And anyway, Walnut, I've been put in a bit of a spot. I had a situation that required significant walnutting where I'm already maybe on the verge of burnout. I'm not sure, but I am already at capacity for my workload, and I'm very conscious of that. And I know that it's going to get busier, so I'm trying to, do what I can on a working hat level to prioritize and manage my time effectively and stuff like that. You should see my calendar, Walnut. It's all color coded to the different projects, and it kind of like nerdy me is kind of like enjoying organizing myself for the busyness that's going to come up. But so I've got the things in place of what I'm doing to try and mitigate any extra burnout, overwhelm, or stress, especially on my little vampire, and especially as I'm starting to finish up work soon. So I'm at capacity. It's really hard for me to admit that I am at capacity, and it is really hard for me to say no when someone asks me for help or to do something as a recovering people pleaser, as you can very likely empathize with, Walnut. And there are obviously particular people in not even a work sense, but in life, that saying no to them just goes through the complicator a little bit more because of the amount of respect you have for them, how close they are to you. This is not just my example is not just catered to corporate world walnuts. This can be anything. Like I've had this example happen, with family and boundaries and things like that. So this will hopefully link in Walnut to something that you can relate to as well. Um, but yeah, there are particular people that come into our lives that it is harder to set a boundary with and say no. And yeah, the hardest thing for me is if someone, um, not even just one of these particular people in life, but if someone asks me for help and I can't help them. Hashtag 5-1 profile in human design. Must help the people. So I'm at capacity and I got asked for just extra things outside of my current role, outside of and I will say all of the work that I'm currently doing, on top of being pregnant, which they know, and on top of all of the stuff I do outside of work, I got asked for I got asked to assist in another side thing that reading between the lines, like they mentioned what the workload would be and they kind of like made it seem like very fun and casual, and it does seem like a cool piece of work as well, which is also a hard thing to reject when it seems like it's something actually cool. um and I just read between the lines a bit and I was thinking to myself, this is a lot, this is a lot of work, and I I can't. I can't. And that makes me feel shit. It makes me feel so shit. It makes me feel so bad. And especially because, um, I've done things like that for this person for so long that it just feels just feel guilty. I feel guilty. It feels difficult. But also, looking at it from a different perspective, um, I, it's not, it's not my problem. It's it's also one of those situations at the same time where it's like I have these feelings and these reservations and the people pleasing and the boundaries and the things. But also if you were from the outside looking in on the situation, Walnut, it's one of those things where it's like that sounds like a you problem and maybe you need to go and find a resource to assist you and not expect that there is a Lazz that will just do it. Do you know what I mean? So there was kind of like an element of that, which is like very uncomfortable. And just I kind of had to realize that for myself and stare at it and try and look at my whole situation with my feelings aside and look at everything objectively. Um, so in the end, Walnut, I'm dragging this out, aren't I? But in the end, I had to Walnut and be really brave and basically say, I am maxed out. But prior to that, I did ask a colleague who is she's very loud, if that kind of makes sense. She's very loud, strong, um, has very good work boundaries, and also knows my situation. Um, and so I asked the advice before I replied and asked if she could just give what does she think and what all of the things. So I went I did some pre-walnut homework by discussing the situation, asking for a little bit of advice, and I also had a little bit of a vent to a couple of people just to release my feelings because I didn't want to reply, from a feeling level. My response needed to be very just as a matter of fact and corporate and just say no in a sense, which is like, see, I'm like dog grinning because I feel uncomfortable and awkward even just thinking about the fact that I did that. um, anyways, so those are the things, the pre-walnut homework that I did before doing the walnutting was I just needed to express myself. I needed to let some of the heavy feeling that came attached to it go, but just because of the circumstances and because of the because of the details of and the specifics of the person and of my situation and all of the things. And then I asked some like logistical, corporate matter of fact advice. And then I sent the email response basically saying, um, this sounds cool because it did. Sounds really, really awesome. But I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. So I'm actually really busy. Happy to help with this little portion of the workload that they mentioned. Um, but I can't give more hours than I'm already doing. My other stuff as a priority over it, unfortunately. So basically a very it wasn't even like bitchy email. It wasn't even like no. It was just like hashtag facts. It was just factual. So that happened. I got a response. It wasn't even that bad. They said, okay, cool. I'll probably come back to you with the little bit where I said that I did have capacity to help. And I said, that's cool. Sounds awesome. And happy days. But I'll tell you what, Walnut, it did set me after doing that whole like objective looking thing and being like, um, this sounds like a you problem sort of thing. It did trigger me in the sense that not not really to this specific personal situation, but it triggered me for like it made a snowball effect of all of the other situations where I have felt like I am a doormat and like I am always there. Like I'm always just someone that is there as the maid, as the cleanup crew to sort the things and do the things and be, like I have had this in so many areas of my life and particular people that have weaved in and out as well, where it's like I feel it it triggered me to the point where I felt like, and I expressed this to a friend of mine. It was like, do I just have the word doormat tattooed all over my forehead? Like, do I look like a pushover? It triggered me in that sense where it made me feel like I'm just the person that always does stuff. So I just always get asked, and no one cares about my time. No one cares that I have a condition, and no one cares that um I am maxed out at capacity, tired, just want to be in bed, and I still am getting asked these questions. Half the time, Walnut, at work, I am asked a lot of questions, and I go to a different person to find the answer. Like I don't have the answers. I very 90% of the time do not have an answer, but I go and collect the answer and give it to So I just it really this moment really triggered me for past things and present things of where I feel like when I was a full-fledged people pleaser, I did have those times of feeling like a doormat and feeling really used lots of the time because I didn't have any boundaries and I didn't back myself and I didn't feel like I was worth backing. And yeah, so that kind of bubbled up a little bit of old emotion of like, yeah, I can't believe if it made me feel like this weird sense of justice for past Lazz. Like I got a little bit angry. And it's not at this situation, at this example of the walnutting that I'm telling you about, but that brought it up and I got really, really angry for past Lazz where I just wanted to stick up for her and be like, no, you've got a boundary, It made me reflect and I got triggered and I got really angry at um that feeling of that girl, that walnut girl or peanut girl who was just trying to get by, who just literally felt stomped all over all of the time. And it sounds super dramatic. And like I've always said, walnut in my book and everything like that, I haven't had a bad life. I've had a really good time. But there were these feelings of like just being walked all over lots of the time. And that was due to a lack of boundary and a lack of like worthiness. So I guess I'm just really proud of all of the walnut work and I want to share these walnuttings where I've gone back to somebody and said no, which don't sound like the biggest deal in the world, but those combined and compounded over a series of years, like how long Walnut Wednesday has been going, four, is it 5 years? Um, the more and more we set these like not just boundaries, but we do these walnuttings and set ourselves up for the next time, it just gets easier and easier, and then we become all of a sudden the people that we know we can be and that we are. And it's still uncomfortable as well. Like I'm trying to say at the same time, I don't actually know what I'm trying to say, but that's my walnutting this week. It was really awkward, really uncomfortable. But I did it, and I did it in a graceful way. I wasn't being a bitch. I didn't burn any bridges. Nothing bad happened. And I still managed to have my nervous system and overwhelm and all of the things intact because I said no. Whereas past me, the one that was always trying to please everyone and couldn't say no, would have taken it on as well, complained about it, been burnt out, complained about that, and carried on in this weird, like, martyry head sense of like, I've just got so, those what is it? Those awards that we try to win that don't exist, like the person that worked till 10 p.m. at night and still sending emails. It's like that. I don't respect that. That's not that's not good. That doesn't make you look good in my eyes. um, and obviously that comes with all of the extras. You know what I'm trying to say though, right, Walnut? So that's my walnutting this week. I hope that you find a little tidbit from this episode. But I guess what I'm really going to round up and say is to Walnut, just keep going with the brave things and keep going with the walnuttings, even though I know they are really uncomfortable and they are really scary. And over time, they do get easier. They do get easier, but they don't get any less uncomfortable, if that kind of makes sense. There will always be a new discomfort version of a walnutting that we get to like break through. And the results of that is future you will look back and go, oh my gosh, if I had this much time ago, I would have behaved in a completely different way. And it brings about such a respect for yourself, I think, is what I'm kind of trying to get at here, that didn't exist pre doing all of the little brave things. And they don't need to be huge, big, grand gestures. They can just be a simple email saying, I can't, I'm at capacity, or a text, or just saying no to the coffee date because you genuinely just don't want to. They don't need to be that you quit your job and started a business or these big, huge milestones. And those are awesome and great in their own right. But on these little small little boundary workouts and these little walnuttings, it's so important, right? So that's my walnutting this week. Still a bit awkward, but the result, was fine. Everything was fine. And I really thought it important to share this one with you, Walnut, especially this far on into the walnut journey as well. They still come up and they're still uncomfortable, but we carry on and we get it done anyway, right? So have a happy Walnut Wednesday. Be brave. No, you are brave. You are a brave, beautiful, wonderful, delicious walnut. And I love you so much. And thank you so much for your time and for spending your valuable time here listening to my stories all the time. So I appreciate you, Walnut. Have a happy Walnut Wednesday. I'll talk to you next week. Bye.